And with that, welcome into a special Red Friday edition of KC Sports Tonight, the streaming edition. I don't know if it's technically a Red Friday, Neal, but
it's a Blue Friday.
Okay, red and blue.
It's a major baseball series coming up.
Yeah.
Do you even know about the Royals?
Listen,
all you want to do is talk Chiefs.
Yeah, It says the person, myself, who was just at the K not too long ago, which, Neal, let's actually mention, I took a picture of this and tweeted out, on the foul poles at the K. Again, what better way to start the show than this? They have now an advertisement on the foul pole, Neal, that says, hitting dingers with a Z at the end, eating chicken. It's a Chick-fil-A ad, and that is now on both foul poles at the K. Neal, your instant reaction.
Well, I don't ever want to antagonize a possible client.
Oh, okay.
So
Smart.
I'm not going to say anything. I will say this. The only chicken I ever eat, is I eat chicken spadini. And I eat Stroud's chicken. I've eaten Stroud's chicken.
Shout out Stroud's.
Those are local businesses. I eat their chicken. I don't do the processed chicken that gets shipped in frozen from Delaware.
So you are not supporting the cow movement, all right? These are cows that are like, hey, eat chicken, not us.
That's just me.
Okay.
It's not.
I'm glad you gave a shout out to Stroud's, though. Great cinnamon rolls, great mashed potatoes. I mean, that's great.
Well, those are places that have allowed me to come in and shoot as well. Local businesses who've let me come in with a camera and do stories
and
there.
Get some free food out of it?
No, I don't get free food. Don't do that. That's against the rules.
Smart.
And by the way, can I say something? Last night I had a chance my wife and I celebrated our 32nd wedding anniversary, and we
Shout
did
out
it
Mrs. Jones.
with 500 of the nicest people at the Kansas City Corporate Challenge. They asked me actually they asked Channel 5 to provide someone to MC. They wanted like Brad Stevens.
They went far down the list.
And they ended up with me. Can you imagine the tears in their eyes when I showed up?
Yeah.
They could not have been nicer. It was.
That's like when people see me anchoring, they're like, oh, we wanted Neal. And then they're like, oh, we're stuck
I don't
with
know
Jared.
that anybody ever wanted to see me anchor. But
Okay.
Anyway, the point is we had a wonderful night. They really made it special, and we want to thank everybody in the Kansas City Corporate Challenge and the 500 athletes who were out there. It was pretty impressive.
Shout out the KC Corporate Challenge. Neal played a role in kicking off the ceremonies at the Truman Sports Complex and wrapping it up, while I was the star of a KC5 soccer team that was a little 3v3 action. We won a couple games, and I even played a table tennis match at KCCC. Got smoked in that. Turns out there's a lot of good table tennis players in Kansas City. I didn't think I was bad. Well, I'm not good, Neal. I learned that. So, yes, shout out KCC. And that is one of the best ways we've ever started this stream. Neal Jones, Jared Koller here on a Friday. We are talking Chiefs, Royals, and Mizzou tonight. I mentioned Chiefs because I mentioned the Red Friday because players, veterans are reporting to training camp today on St. Joe and the campus of Missouri Western. Veterans report tonight. So Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, they're all piling into the dorm. However, Neal is also correct, and then it's also a Blue Friday, and that the Royals are reporting back to the K after the All-Star break, so we'll talk about that and give a little Mizzou love. But, Neal.
Mizzou love?
Yeah.
6th place Missouri.
Yeah, out of 16, what place did Oklahoma come in, Neal?
And when they play Oklahoma in that showdown that will be nationally televised, it will be between the 6th. Yeah. The SEC media voted. They made Missouri 6th. Missouri finished 3rd last year. Missouri's better than they were a year ago, arguably. And they have an easier schedule than a year ago, but they're 6th because the SEC media is biased and crazy, and Oklahoma's 8th. And Oklahoma probably, given the fact that they have a lot of holes on the offensive line that they have to replace, they probably deserve to be 8th. But there's so much to argue about. Don't go away. I'm going to go off when we start talking about the SEC.
It's quite the tease. Yeah, the great thing about KC Sports Night is for years now, viewers have tuned in on Saturday nights during college football season to hear me and Neal yap about Mizzou, Kansas State.
I talk as a professional.
Right,
fanboy talks like a fan.
Right, exactly.
Neal,
proud of
Neal,
it.
Did you see him? He ran for a touchdown.
Give them their flowers. I mean, when they do well,
touchdown.
I want to give them their flowers, and you're always like, I don't want to give anybody flowers. That's how Neal goes, except for his wife on his anniversary again.
I know I didn't. I'm taking her out tomorrow. I'm taking her out tomorrow night. Tonight, last night we were up at the event.
Yeah, so that's how that goes. That's normally on Saturdays, but today, folks, you get it on a Friday. You're welcome. Okay, Neal, let's jump into this. You were at training camp practice this morning.
It was great.
Yeah, no Patrick Mahomes, no Carson Wentz.
Mahomes wasn't there. Yeah. No, there wasn't anybody over the age of about 23 who was there. There were a couple, and nobody was there. But it was really exciting. Got to see all the young guys out there. Worthy was, that's the guy, Xavier Worthy, number one, the wide receiver, first-round draft pick from the University of Texas. I ended up shooting a lot of video of him because they had him returning punts. He looks really polished.
Okay.
They really love him as a kick and punt returner. Of course, nobody knows what the new kickoff rules are going to be like.
Right.
And, Jared, I don't watch the USFL and some of these other leagues, X-League and some of this other leagues that have tried some various things over the years. I haven't watched them. Mm-hmm. And so I don't really understand the new rules yet. It'll be interesting for me, but it's going to be really fun to see how the Chiefs handle it. And, of course, I also love watching the incoming rugby player, Louis Rees-Zammit.
Yes.
He dropped a punt. He does not look like a natural.
Okay.
But here's the deal.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
If they cut him, he'll get picked up.
Agreed, yeah.
So I think he's going to be on the football team.
When he's more of a running back, I would say that's his position. Probably.
I'm not sure. I think he's more of I think he could be a slot receiver. I think he could be a running back who does a little bit of what Jarrett McKinnon did.
That's a harder transition, though. No,
it's very difficult It's very difficult to play running back because you have to do pass protection. That's
true.
You wouldn't believe how many times guys are not on the field on third down, especially third and more than 5, because they can't pass protect, and you don't want to get your quarterback killed because a rugby player did not read the defense and didn't block someone. So I think he's a guy, though, that, you bring him in and go, here's what you're doing. You're not even going to read the defense.
Yeah.
You're going to have a prearranged deal. They did it with Rashee Rice. Andy Reid is not the first guy to do that. Offensive coordinators will get youngsters on the field and say, look, we know you don't know the offense completely yet. You haven't played that much in the NFL. We're going to help you out. You're going to go in and you're going to run either this route or that route based on man or zone defense, and we're going to have the quarterback call out something, a color or a number, and that is going to tell you to run this route or that route, so you don't have to read anything.
Yeah, I think he's one of the really interesting players to watch this camp in his role, and just a crazy learning curve, but I think he has the talent, and I think you're right. If another team will pick him up. But, Neal, I also want to ask about report day, because this is Andy Reid's 12th training camp, and this is your 473rd training
31st.
camp. Oh, okay.
31st.
That dates back to even before St. Joe. Shout out River Falls, Wisconsin.
Oh, God. I remember when the guys came in on trains.
Yeah, exactly.
Walked,
so that's
they
what
walked
I wanted
from the train station.
That's what I wanted to ask. Unfortunately, today we don't have any. If you're a longtime K65 viewer, you remember, for many years the report day shenanigans. The most recent camp darling would be Anthony Sherman, but Dustin Colquitt also had some great arrivals. We don't have that today.
What was your favorite Anthony Sherman?
I think the NASCAR where he wore the full NASCAR helmet, suit, and he drove in on Clint Boyer's NASCAR. I think that was probably my favorite.
What about, didn't somebody bring a tank or a...
Yeah, Dustin Colquitt brought the tank that had actually been used to help flooding in Houston. He brought the specialists on that, so Harrison Butker and James Winchester. That was cool. But Anthony Sherman also rolled in with jean overalls. He had a mohawk. He had this wrestling singlet one day. And these are all different years. So he was really the camp
In other words, he dresses like you.
Right, yeah. On the weekends, watch out.
Well, let me ask you this. Why do you think that the reason they tell us, and they reiterated it today or yesterday, Brad G did, the PR director.
Shout out Brad G, there you go.
What a great guy. He said, look, the last 2 years we've had the team report either they had to be by midnight or by 9 p.m. We really don't want people hanging around the dorms over there. If you're here in the afternoon, you may not get anybody. And so to make it easier on everyone, we're just going to say we're going to close the campus down.
You get it.
Do you think that's a reason, or do you think that maybe they...
Oh, I think that's part of the reason. It's unfortunate. It's always a fun day, and I think fans like seeing the players in this capacity. And so that's where on a day where we could be talking about fun stuff, seeing Travis Kelce and Chris Jones, instead I asked Neal, what are your favorite report day memories? Because, listen, I remember my first training camp for KC5 was in 2016, Chris Jones' rookie year. And I remember he rolled up. He was pretty confident. He's like, hey, I don't think this is going to be tougher than Mississippi State. And I think him being glad that he missed last year's training camp showed that, all right, Andy Reid knows how to run a camp. So when you look back at your much more, I've got almost a decade here, Neal, you go back a lot longer. How do you look back on training camp report days through the years and your favorite memories?
I videoed them. I went out and I enjoyed the antics, and some of the guys really had fun, and it was fun. But it's difficult because everything we did was pretty much at a podium. Mm-hmm. I remember Don Terry Poe. Do you remember how the big nose big tackle from Memphis?
Mm-hmm. Caught a touchdown pass.
And threw a touchdown pass.
And threw one, yeah.
He talked about food. He came in and we were like, what do you miss? Are you going to enjoy this? He goes, the thing I'm going to miss most is my grandmother's cooking. My grandmother cooks, and she makes all these great things, and I go home, and I weigh 340 pounds, so I'm not really counting calories. And he said, it was kind of fun hearing, and I love hearing I like the guys talking about what they bring.
Yeah. Mahomes bringing a TV for the first time ever this year, Neal.
Well, I think it's the Live at 5 show. I think that's the thing.
There you
that's
go.
Really,
yes, company
he loves
man.
Live
there
at 5.
Go.
He really enjoys our live shots.
I thought it was to stay up late, 10:30 Saturday, Sundays to watch KC Sports Night with Jared Koller and Neal Jones. Well, that's what he told me off the record.
Well, let me say this.
Okay.
He and I might be the biggest, both Patrick Mahomes and I might be the biggest college football fans in Kansas City.
It's fair. Yeah, you love the college football.
So I think he does watch a lot of college football on ESPN.
You saw him at the Texas Tech KU game last year on the sideline?
Yes, he did not wave at me.
Right.
However, his guards didn't shoot me
His security
either,
said, watch out for Mr. Jones.
They didn't tase me or anything, so I considered that a victory.
Yeah.
And we had an intern with us, and she's like, we should get an interview with him. And I'm like, hey, feel free to go over there. Maybe they won't shoot you.
Yeah, that's the fun thing. If you love college football, you will see Neal Jones on the sidelines if you watch closely. A lot of times at the post-game handshakes, you'll see Neal right up in there and getting a great bite. And I remember Adrian Martinez at Oklahoma when Kansas State upset the Sooners. He ran right by Neal. Also, apparently Neal didn't watch Adrian Martinez win the title in the UFL this year. All right,
I heard about that.
There you go.
You know what? I'm so happy for him. He was a great guy to cover.
Yeah.
He was great.
He was the man.
One of my favorite stories about shooting handshakes, pregame handshake, Norm Stewart and Roy Williams over at Allen Fieldhouse. So I'm racing out there to get them talking, and Roy turns around and says, they talk for a second. Hey, Norm, good to see you. How's everything going? How's your wife? Blah, blah, blah. And then he turns to me and says, okay, you got what you need. Now we're going to talk. And so I go, oh, okay. So I back off, and everybody comes up. What were you all talking about? And I go, no, I wasn't really involved in the conversation. I was just being told to get the heck out of Dodge. So, it was nice. Roy,
he was just telling Norm to sit down, Neal. He just wanted him to sit down.
Roy and Norm let me have a little bit of, it's good to be here and all that stuff. And then they'd had enough. And then, hey, see you later.
Yeah, and then Neal and I talked to Roy Williams at the Final Four in New Orleans just 2 years ago.
And one of us didn't ask for his autograph.
Yeah,
one of us actually did an interview.
Yeah, that's where
Roy, do you remember me? I yelled at you one time.
No, Roy looked into the camera and was like, "Hey, you got to go." And I'm like, "I'm going, Roy. I don't know what you want me to do." Yes, shout out Roy Williams. Great Kansas.
But
let
me say this. The thing I miss about training camp, we had it. We used to have it in River Falls with Marty Schottenheimer and that staff, and then we had it down here in Missouri at Missouri Western for the first few years. But we no longer can talk to players, so we'll see a guy that we'll probably not see at the podium. Some of the local kids, people that are trying out long shots to make the team. And you would love to be able to just talk to them about what's it like. Do you hear from your parents? One-on-one, where you can just talk to them for 4 or 5 minutes or 3 or 4 minutes, maybe 3 or 4 questions about what life is like and are you enjoying it. But because they're not a big enough star, they may not have a local tie, they don't get to come to the podium. That's the one thing I miss, and that is not just here. That is across the NFL. They limit contact with the players. I think they want to save the players from having to deal with the media, and they also want to save the NFL from having to deal from somebody saying something they shouldn't say.
But Neal,
that part I miss.
That's a great transition, because you know what's great about baseball is the fact that it's not really like that. It's a different culture in the Royals clubhouse, to where Bobby Witt Jr. is one of the biggest stars, and he talks before and after most games now. And so that's why I bring up today. I was at the K today in the clubhouse. I talked with Cole Reagans, Vinny Pasquantino, Hunter Harvey, MJ Melendez did not talk to Bobby Witt today. He was not there. When I was there,
said he was available.
Yeah, he said, no, Jared, I don't want to talk to you. No, that's not true. But brings us to the Royals. And before we get to this series and you see the pitching matchups there on the screen, I first want to hit on the return from the break. In that, like, I asked Vinny Pasquantino, like, hey, what was it like to see your friend Bobby on the big stage? And he gave a great answer about that. You can hear it coming up on Case 5 News at 6. But I think it's cool now for Bobby to come back to this clubhouse where he's a bigger star, Neal, today than he was the last time he left that clubhouse. That's what showing out on the national stage, almost winning the home run derby, putting on a show will do. And Vinny told me, he's like, Kansas City, I know Bobby likes Kansas City, but Kansas City also needs to understand how lucky they are to have a player like Bobby Witt Jr.
And, oh, by the way, Sal Perez right there alongside him, having a great time. That was a spectacle. I watched it with my wife. We were having dinner.
Shout out Mrs. Jones again.
Yes. That was on Monday. Or was that on Monday? It was Monday, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I played golf. Then we went out to dinner afterwards. And so we at a place that had like 5 different versions. They had all the different ESPN channels that were doing the home run derby. So they had 2 or 3 that were, one was just on the batter, one was on following the ball. So we could see them all. And I must say, it was, without even hearing the audio, you could just tell how exciting it was.
You didn't miss a whole lot with the audio.
I was trying. My wife asked me this: was the home run derby sold out in Kansas City?
Boy, I think I was there, and I had standing room only seats with my dad. I think it was.
Do you think it was? Because I said I don't remember.
I was under the kind of awning, so I don't know for sure. Were you there for the All-Star weekend for any of that?
Yeah.
See, that was 2012.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I was there, and but I think.
What do you remember about that home run derby? Anything come to mind?
The booing. The Yankee second baseman.
Robinson Cano. Yeah,
he picks the team and leaves off
Billy Butler.
Right. Who was a line drive hitter.
Just making sure. It's been a while.
But the thing that bothered me was that it was just a lack of respect for the home fans.
Yeah.
And you know what? People come out. They want to see their guy. Sure. Okay, Billy Butler's probably not going to win the home run derby, but he's our guy.
Who cares? I know.
And how many times did Yankees get picked because they're Yankees and they're borderline, but they got voted in because they're Yankees?
Well, and karma got him because he didn't hit a single home run. I mean, that was the noise level that it got to with those boos ringing out throughout Kauffman Stadium was like playoff level, not like, hey, winning the World Series level. But I remember the report was that ESPN had to turn down the crowd noise because it was just so loud. With exception when Cano was hitting, they put Billy Butler on Crown Vision once, and the whole stadium was like, yeah. And it's so funny because Billy Butler one-time All-Star, but that was a cool moment.
I loved that whole experience. It was fun. I got to go over and interview a bunch of the National League players. And the way we split it up, and so I got to go over the day before and do the interviews over at Arrowhead. They had the interviews were set up there across the parking lot. And a lot of the ball players are like, hey, how do we look at the stadium on the inside? And I'm like, here, follow me. So I had 4 or 5 people, including Clayton Kershaw. I'm a huge Dodger fan growing up as well as a Royals fan. And I take these guys out there, and they're looking at – now, we're not on the field. We're above. And they're going nuts. And then some guard goes, you guys can't be here. And Clayton Kershaw's like,
this guy named Neal.
Maybe he can't be here, but we can be here. And I did not video it. I put my camera down to do it.
Right.
So that was
That's cool.
It was just a neat All-Star weekend.
Well, because that was also before now, and I don't want to go off on a tangent on this, but now National League, the All-Star Game is not what it used to be. But even back in 2012, the Dodgers didn't play here every year. So that, very well likely was Clayton Kershaw's first time at the K, and he wouldn't be back for a handful of years. So thankfully they had a tour guide like Neal to show him the ropes.
Yeah, but remember, I'm talking about we were at Arrowhead.
Oh.
See, they did the press conference the day before the game because they didn't have room at Kauffman for that.
Well, same deal.
They were up in that second level at Arrowhead, and he's like, is there any way to see the football stadium? I go, yeah, right through here. Because it's,
gotcha.
we worked there a lot. So I let him back about 25, 30 feet around a corner, and then there it was, and they were all standing there going, this is cool. And then they were taking selfies with them,
Neal, you could also interpret that as kidnapping. You kidnapped National League All-Stars and took them to Arrowhead.
If I had had a chance to kidnap Barry Bonds and some of the steroid freaks, Mark McGuire.
No.
Mark McGuire. I would have kidnapped them and put them in a time machine and send them back about 100 years.
Wow. I completely disagree, and thankfully he did not say the name of the person who I will always stand up for, and that is one Sammy Sosa. Sammy Sosa was wronged, and
I don't
Sammy
know.
in the hall.
I don't know. I don't know if he did it or not.
Sammy in the hall.
But the two guys I mentioned, they did it.
The way Sammy Sosa has been misjudged is baseball hypocrisy at its finest. David Ortiz did worse things than Sammy Sosa, yet Big Papi was a first ballot Hall of Famer, yet. All right, we are going crazy off the rails here, but that's what KC Sports Tonight is, when you get Jared and Neal together, all right? There's a reason why on Saturdays we tape it so I can cut down all this malarkey, but here it's live.
You read it? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. Cat's out of the bag now. Finally, Neal, second half at the K. Your expectations for starting with this weekend series. They've got the White Sox, so they really should win 2 out of 3, and it's not crazy to expect a sweep. But going forward, this is a big month for the Royals to really stay in the hunt.
It really – I don't know that it's – I think it's easy to say that. We think in those terms, like, okay, this next – I do think you need to win at home as much as possible. They got a 9-game homestand. They're playing against the Diamondbacks, first the White Sox, then the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks are obviously one of the darlings of last year making the World Series.
Yeah, but
they have a
struggling.
winning record.
Right.
And right now they're in the playoffs in the National League. And then the Cubs. Cubs, one of the biggest disappointments. Decent roster. But the talk in Chicago is all about, are we going to start selling? Yep. Are we going to start dumping some salaries? Because we got a bunch of big-name guys with big salaries who are just like playing like dogs. And so that's an ugly clubhouse. You have an opportunity here to make some hay at home, take care of business against a couple of teams that are down, the Chicago Cubs and Chicago White Sox.
Yeah. But even the Diamondbacks, Neal, they're only 2 games over 500. So, yeah, they're only a half game out of the playoff spot, but that's why the trade market is a little hard to judge right now because, Neal, there's so many teams that are still in the hunt. I think that's why you're not seeing a whole lot more trades.
No, I agree.
I think you're going to wait to the end of the July because then the Diamondbacks may be 5 games out and they say, all right, we're going to trade. Because, yeah, they're only 2 games over 500, so the Royals have the better record over for the next 9 games.
So the Royals pick up Hunter Harvey to add a right-handed arm to their relief corps. I'm curious. I think they've got to get a bat. And I know that this year, more than any other year, because the expanded playoffs, teams are not trading players yet, but like you say, between now and the trade deadline, you're going to see opportunities. And I think J.J. Koller has made it clear that he's going to try to bolster this lineup because I think they feel like they have an opportunity this year to jump into the playoffs, and who knows what will happen. Remember what John Sherman said, and that is get in the playoffs. Get in the playoffs. Yeah. That's all you got to do is get in the tournament because then you can do it.
Yeah, it's probably easier to do than the Royals have made it over the last 40 years or so. It's not a Herculean task, but it's tough, and they need to get better and continue to play even a little bit better than this pace if they want to get in, even with a little expansion. MJ Melendez injury kind of complicates that a little bit, and so I think that's where your need, especially if you think he's going to be out for more than just the 10 days on the injured list, that's where then you especially need another outfielder. But even with Melendez, the talk was, hey, we still need to improve the outfield. Drew Waters called up. He'll take that spot, at least for now. You also have Nelson Velasquez in AAA as depth. But you're right. They get a bullpen arm in Hunter Harvey. They also bring back Chris Bubich, who's now in the bullpen. So the bullpen is a little bit better. We'll see what moves come for the offense. But also the farm system isn't exactly overstuffed with lots of guys to trade like maybe they had in 2015 where they had more margin for error. So we will see. It's an interesting trade season. Royals at the K. Go out and see a baseball game this weekend at
Great
Kauffman
weather
Stadium.
for it. It's going to be great.
Great weather. The Royals play great at home this year. Their record is one of the best in the bigs, and against the White Sox, they should have a pretty good chance to win. So with that, Neal, we will wrap up on the Missouri Tigers because SEC Media Day is wrapped up yesterday, Thursday that is. So today the polls come out and Mizzou is picked 6th out of 16. And Luther Burden is the only one that gets first team All-SEC honors, the wide receiver out of St. Louis. Your immediate reaction to either Luther Burden or the Tigers getting 6th?
I think that the Tigers are going to have great opportunity to have a couple of offensive linemen, either first or second team All-SEC. The two tackles from Lee Summit North, Armand Mimbo on the right side, and the left side, Caden Green, are 2 guys who were 4- and 5-star recruits. Both of them played and started last year. They are experienced. Caden played at Oklahoma.
Right.
Armand has played the last 2 years at the University of Missouri. I do believe that they are going to open a lot of eyes. And the thing that I think has kind of been missed by the national media with Missouri is how good they've been on the line. They have developed really good offensive and defensive linemen. Kind of like the Chiefs. The Chiefs don't get a lot of love on the defensive line, right, except for Chris Jones, and yet they keep finding guys who make plays. You know, the George Karloftises of the world. George Karloftis is not going to be on the box of Wheaties anytime soon, okay? He's not a superstar by NFL standards, and yet he played a key role for the Super Bowl champions. I think that Mizzou has done a great job of developing guys like that. They've also got one of the top recruits in the country, and Williams Renari from the defensive end pass rusher. I think he's a guy that obviously is only going to be a true freshman, but they're going to find ways to use him.
Yeah.
You rotate in the heat. You play a bunch of guys. I think Mizzou's got some numbers on the lines that really impress a lot of people. They've got some question marks elsewhere on their defense, but I think they're going to be better than sixth. And I think this goes back to the SEC bias towards the traditional SEC schools. The tie always goes to them,
like Texas.
I talked to a couple of people down in Birmingham, one of whom is a voter in the AP poll, and he said, look, you know, if it's going to come down to Georgia or Texas, we're always going to vote Georgia ahead of Texas, because to vote Texas ahead of Georgia in the preseason poll is to admit that the best Big 12 team is better than the best SEC team. And that's that's the way it thinks. And I know
and I don't think that's true. I don't think it was – I do think that there are some people that voted for Georgia that actually think Texas is better. I don't.
Well, I'll tell you who does think that, who has said he thinks that Texas is better, and that is the former Alabama coach. I mean, he of course.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know his.
He had to play him the last 2 years, and he was saying,
he also had to play Georgia, and there's a little bit more rivalry there. I don't know if Nick Saban's going to go out there and say "Go Dogs" all the time, even if he wants to rep SEC. But no, this is going to be a crazy SEC football season because of Texas and Oklahoma added to the big dogs. But Neal, the reason why I think you're right in that there's some SEC bias against the Tigers is because they aren't looking at the schedules and realizing that the 5 teams ahead of Mizzou, Neal, have tougher schedules than Mizzou. Like, Mizzou will have every opportunity to climb the ranks because they only, of the first 5, the only team they play is at Alabama. So if you go by that, you think, oh, they should be favored against if you look at it as, okay, they're underdogs against the teams above them, favorites behind them, well, then they'd be favored in every other game. And if Mizzou is a one-loss team, well, shoot, they're easily making the college football playoffs. So that's where I'm not that surprised. I'm honestly fine with 6th. I thought it could be worse. I thought it could be as high as 4, but I didn't expect that.
I'm just sick of this. I'm sick of they are treated like the redheaded stepchild of that league. They've never gotten any respect.
Right.
They won the East
I agree.
Their second and third years there, and it was like, well, it's because it's down.
Yeah,
it's down because they kicked people and they went down.
Especially compared to teams that have no room to talk. Tennessee hadn't done anything of late. South Carolina hadn't done anything of late. Arkansas hadn't done anything.
You left out Florida. Florida's a dumpster fire that just doesn't go away.
I agree. Especially if you do the mark from since Mizzou made that first SEC championship game, if you start it then and look forward, Mizzou's one of the most successful teams in the SEC. Nobody wants to admit that because they don't think Mizzou's a true SEC school. But, Neal, they win the Cotton Bowl last year. If they can make the college football playoff again this year, I think that'll go even longer than those back-to-back great years that Gary Pinkel had. And so, listen, it's all in front of Mizzou. I think you're right. They've had something to prove. That was their motto last year, and I think it's still true. They have something to prove. But I think there's more of a chance for them to earn respect this year.
So when the LSU team took the field last year in Columbia, I'm out there real early. They come out to stretch, and one of the coaches turns to another coach and says, "This is just like Vanderbilt." Now, and I don't know.
That was an 11-inning game, but that's disrespectful.
I don't know if he meant remember they were fixing up
right.
He said maybe he was saying what they did with the end zone club is similar to what Vanderbilt's doing, which is like, oh yeah, they're doing what they got what Vanderbilt's doing. Or I took it to mean the stadium's small. It's like little Vanderbilt, and it hacked me off.
I know. Listen, there are bigger stadiums and bigger crowds and better atmospheres in the SEC. I'll hand it. Yes, I'll say that about LSU, about Alabama, Georgia, Texas A&M. But listen, Mizzou
Texas,
has a
Oklahoma.
great.
A lot of schools have bigger stadiums. It ain't about the stadium or the size of the band.
Right.
It's not. If it was, A&M would win a national championship every other year. And it's about on the field.
I will take the atmospheres at Faroe Field for that atmosphere against Tennessee when they were running up on Josh Heupel.